It was either at the Oakland Airport Hilton in 97 or 98. It was when I was doing one event a year, which I called Compassionate Conservative Conventions. Remember when George Bush stole it to get elected? Remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm still a member of...
And Jimmy, do you recall who we had pictures of when we said name them or shame them? Whose pictures were we dancing around on the stage?
Madeline Halfbite. Who else was in there? Quite a boatload of them. You kept bringing them up, and your son was there.
Right, and they're now running the country. They're now running America. You understand that as well, Jimmy?
Yes.
It could be one of them is thin-skinned and waited all these years to get even.
Yeah.
Jimmy, let me send you a free copy of Psychological Nudity for having such a good memory, and thank you very much. 1-800-449-8255. Let's go to Sacramento. Junior up on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Only for you, Michael. I'd have gone back to Australia long ago. I've lived in this country 60 years, met and married a wonderful man, American husband, and I lost him 7 years ago. I have dual citizenship. I can't stand it here any longer. I'm 84 years old, handicapped senior. If they've got to carry me on a bloody stretcher, I'm going back to Australia because I know.
Why, June? What is it that's bothering you today in America?
Everything you say, Michael, is what I think. And I'm too old to put it into words, and I sit here alone every afternoon waiting for you at 3 o'clock. I just want to tell you I love you, Michael. That's all. I'm going now.
Thanks, June. Very touching. Very touching. What can you say? What can you say? Yes, in order for evil to triumph, all it takes is a few good men to do nothing. Are you one of those few good men who have your hat on backwards? Las Vegas, Rick, you're up on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, just if they are doing what they're saying with the list, what bothers me is that they're still not taking you off the list with the others. You're still ganged up with the rest of them, even if they do what they say they're going to do or whatever. They're still not disassociated.
Yeah, even if they eliminate the list and they say, well, we're not publishing such a list, what good does that do me? I'm still linked up with murderers.
Exactly.
All right, well, there's the problem. Michigan, Tom, you're next up. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I first heard about it going in this morning into Chicago on a station there that you were off the list, and then they said they dropped the whole list. And I said he's not off the list then. He's just underground blacklisted because there's no men in England, just like there's no men in Washington. Nobody will stand up for what's right. They could have stood up and said that they were wrong, but no, they just said they're going to drop the whole thing. Well, you're still on the list with the same ones if everybody got dropped.
That's right. In other words, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So let's go back to when Joe Farah called me. I said to him, I'm stunned. I'll believe it when I see it in writing from the government, and I want a letter of apology. In other words, unless they send me a letter and say it was a mistake on the part of Jackie Smith to link you, Michael Savage, up with murderers and terrorists and was sorry for it, then that to me is the end of the road, isn't it?
Well, except for that if they've dropped everybody, they can give you an apology and all that, but they dropped everybody instead of saying, well, hey, these murderers and terrorists belong on the list and you don't. So
yeah, well, that would be the ideal, wouldn't it? That would be the ideal, wouldn't it? Yes, they've permanently darkened my name. Absolutely, Tom. Thank you. So, what would you like to say? I'm going to ask you a question. All of you listening to the Savage Nation. I don't want to just talk about Obama's budget. That's a given. It's a no-brainer. He's a communist. He's surrounded by criminals. They're spending your money and your children's money and your grandchildren's money. They're robbing the Treasury. They're robbing you blind. They're paying off gangsters. The gangsters are salivating on the sidelines waiting for the trillions of dollars that are going to be coming in their pockets from Pelosi, from Obama, from Wax, whatever his name is, Nostroman with the big nose. You think they care about health care? If they cared so much about health care, why would they be offering health care to 20 million illegal aliens who aren't even citizens? Don't you understand what this is? It's gangster socialism. There are varieties of socialism, just as there are varieties of capitalism. There's benign socialism, there's sane socialism on a light note, and then there's gangster socialism, which goes all the way up the scale to Stalin and Adolf Hitler, both socialists. This is gangster socialism without the death camps. Make no mistake about it. The reason they want 20 million illegal aliens on the health rolls is because there are billions of dollars that are going to be stolen by fake doctors, fake clinics, fake providers, fake drivers, fake ambulettes, fake medicines providers. What do I have to spell it out for you? It is corruption on the highest level coming from the highest office. Now, it's true that Obama's numbers are plummeting. It's true that if the election were held today, he would lose. It's true that even liberals have turned on him. If you read the articles from the Washington Post, even they're stunned. That is, writers from the Washington Post who have children wrote the article, and they actually said it's because we have children that we have to say these things. See, once you have children, you start to think for somebody other than yourself. They're looking at it and saying this is not sustainable. I know how the liberals love to say sustainable this, sustainable that. Is this a sustainable program? Well, this is the least sustainable program in the history of America. Cap and trade, a laughing stock. It's nothing but graft and a boondoggle for those in the so-called green rackets. And make no mistake about it, it's a green racket, just like recycling is a racket. You don't understand it, but every time you go out, put a can here and put the paper there. You think you're doing something good for the environment? It's a racket, my friends. Why do I say it? Because it takes more energy to recycle the cans and the paper. It takes more energy than it does to throw in a landfill, meaning the amount of energy required to burn it, to condense it, and to convert it. But you wouldn't know any of that. There's trillions of dollars being wasted on this recycling garbage. And the next boondoggle coming from Goldman and Sachs and Company. Goldman and Sachs and Company is cap and trade, the biggest gangster act in the history of the world. So let's go back to me. What does any of this have to do with Michael Savage being banned in England? Everything. Everything and nothing. It's because I stand opposed to graft corruption, because I stand for borders, language, and culture, that the corrupt, illiberal Obama administration went to a corrupt, abominable little lady from England and said, put him on a list, even though my show isn't heard there. They gave them sound bites taken out of context by this evil group called Media Matters, who are Stalinists. They would have worked very happily in Stalin's Russia, trying to destroy a political opponent through smear campaigns as a tactic of the radicals in the Soviet Union. And, of course, they're very happy to do it with George Soros' money, and you stand for this. If we had a legitimate government, they would have lost their tax-free status a long time ago for targeting only conservatives, because by definition, they're violating 501c3 status. They are a political organization. They're not an educational organization. Political organizations are not permitted to have tax-free status. I'm enmeshed in a number of battles right now, but if you have a desire to help somewhere in the world, you ought to get a group together, and you ought to bring a class action lawsuit against Media Matters, and you should uncover their tax records. You should go after them through the government and see that their tax status is analyzed and revoked because they're a political organization, in my opinion. I can't do it. I'm busy right now. So now let's go back again. Let's go back again. Let's go back to basics. Has free speech been strengthened or weakened as a result of this? Have we won a victory for free speech yet? Have we gained anything or have we lost much in these 3 months? I'll tell you right now what we've gained. We've gained a world looking in astonishment at what a labor socialist government is capable of. And this is only the beginning of what they would have done had I not stood up and fought back. Remember, if I had rolled over, you don't know what would have come next. Or who would have been on the list tomorrow? Madame Defarge. Madame Defarge with the verbal guillotine. Madame Defarge with the guillotine slamming, until eventually the other revolutionaries were put into the guillotine. You know, by the time the French Revolution ended, not only were the property owners killed and their property stolen by the liberals of their time, But eventually then the guillotine was used to destroy those who had fought alongside those with the guillotine. They turned on themselves, just as Fidel Castro has done in Cuba, just as Hitler did with the SA, just as Stalin did with his original henchmen. It's the same all over the world. It's history repeating itself. So that's what it is. I once did a book called Tenacity. I never published it. I took pictures of street weeds. I know it sounds crazy. I went around with a close-up lens with a camera, and I went around the city of San Francisco. I think this was in 74, and I photographed weeds that were growing through cracks in the wall, weeds that came up through the cracks in the pavement. Wherever there was a weed coming out of the pavement or out of a wall, I focused on it because being trained in botany, I was very impressed with the tenacity of certain plants, how tough they are, and how in time they'll engulf the entire planet all over again long after civilizations have disappeared and animal life has disappeared. The plants will again dominate. But they do it so slowly you don't even recognize that they're there sometimes. You think that they're all smiling and happy. But if you have studied plants as closely as I have, what you find is that it's a constant